And welcome back to Game Escape, here today with another hardware review, and this time doing a little update to a video I released back in December of 2012. And in that video, I compared the WiiU Pro Controller with the PlayStation 4 Controller, and basically put them head-to-head in a number of different categories. The verdict I gave in that video was that they were both very close, but I ultimately gave the nod to the PlayStation 4 Controller just because I thought it would be better utilized for playing a variety of game genres. But in that video, I also mentioned that I did not have an Xbox One, and I really had no intention of picking one up, and that remains the case. I do not have an Xbox One, but this summer, Microsoft released drivers for the Xbox One controller to be used on PC. So I replaced my Xbox 360 wired controller that I use on PC with this guy, and I figured I would just kind of update the review and talk a little bit about how the Xbox One controller stacks up against the WiiU Pro Controller and the PlayStation 4 controller. So the first thing that comes to mind when you look at this controller is its similarity to the previous Xbox controller, and that's not a bad thing. That was arguably one of the best game controllers ever made, and this really does feel like a natural evolution of that design. You can see it's a little bit wider, it fits in the hand much more nicely, it doesn't have that big battery pack on the back that kind of got in the way, so it sits very well in the hand. It's not tremendously heavy, which is a good thing. I think it might almost veer to the side of feeling a little bit cheap. The plastic here, as you can see, it doesn't really feel like super high quality plastic, but the design, I think, really stands the test of time. And why change a controller that has succeeded so incredibly over the past generation? Of course, and we see that with the PS4 controller. It is fundamentally the same design as the old PlayStation 1 controller, with just a lot more technology in it, in this case, a little bit wider. So, one of the things that stood out to me, first and foremost, were the thumbsticks. The thumbsticks are actually pretty interesting. They are a little bit looser than what you have on the DualShock 4, which has nicely, I think, tensioned thumbsticks, and even on the WiiU Pro Controller. But that did not translate into a lack of accuracy. In fact, for a lot of the games I play on PC, especially racing games, these thumbsticks made a definite improvement. If you can see, there's almost like a ribbing here to catch the side of your thumb, which is a really nice addition. Your thumb fits, I think, very naturally, and you can just control it with the subtlest of movements. And there was actually a tangible objective benefit, which is to say that in a lot of the racing games that I play on PC, I found that I was getting more achievements. My time on certain time trial tracks was really going down. I think the most noticeable example is probably Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, which I love, which is a great PC game. And getting gold medals on the preview tracks, or the rapid response tracks, which are basically time trial stages, I thought was always very hard to do with the old Xbox 360 controller, and actually racked up some gold medals using this guy. And I haven't really played that game in a while. I just picked it up again, and I'm trying to really just basically finish all the missions. So I was really impressed with that. The D-pad is greatly improved. It's pretty clicky. It was really nice for SteamWorld Dig, which is, dare I say, a Metroidvania platformer. So, that is a major improvement over the old Xbox 360 controller. Buttons feel more or less the same. Solid, effective. I don't know what these buttons are called on the Xbox One, but start and select have a good feel to them. The triggers are a little wider than one might expect, and certainly wider than the previous generation Xbox 360. But what I like about the triggers is that they have a very soft landing, I'll call them. They just feel there's some padding there, My old Xbox 360 controllers would always squeak a little bit. These feel almost, buttery smooth, which is really, really nice. The shoulder buttons here, very clicky shoulder buttons, very, very solid, well constructed. So overall, I almost feel like the upgrade from a 360 controller to an Xbox One controller, it's kind of like going from maybe a Toyota to a Lexus. This just feels higher quality, it's softer to the touch, and all around a better evolution of that design. But the question is, how does it stack up to these other two controllers? Well, I will say the caveat is, I'm playing it on PC, and the results have been very, very good. My PC games, third-person action games, driving games, feel noticeably better with this controller. And I can't really, obviously, maybe give a full review, because I'm not sure, how does it feel on the Xbox One. I'm playing, not on battery, so I can't evaluate the battery life. I'm attached with the micro USB, so maybe I'm getting less latency here than I might on an Xbox One, although I don't think latency is a problem with any of these wireless controllers. But I have to say, I'm liking this controller a lot better than the DualShock 4. And I say that now with the benefit of hindsight. The DualShock 4, it's still solid, still rests nicely in the hand, but given the choice, I like, for my purposes, for my hands, I just like a bigger controller. I like a little bit more surface area to work with. But I think it's also a mechanical issue as well. We talked about how bad the battery life is. I've noticed, having, used this for coming up on a year now, that the fit and finish is starting to wear off. Some of the button presses can feel a little squeaky sometimes, and what was really noticeable and actually pretty disturbing was that the R1 button, now I have two of these, so I don't know if it was this one or the other one. I was playing a lot of Pinball Arcade, and so I would, use the R1 and L1 buttons a lot, because that, especially before that game was updated, that's how you control the flippers. And notice after a while, hitting the R1 and L1 buttons sort of on an angle, unless your hands were really, really over them like this, would lead to the buttons getting stuck. And there's a little plastic ridge, it seemed like, on the inside, and the button was getting stuck, and I was losing a lot of accuracy. There have also been reports that you see online from a number of people that the sort of soft touch plastic on the thumbsticks tend to wear off after heavy use. I don't think I've necessarily used this heavily enough, maybe, to have that happen, but there is some quality control issues, I think, with this controller. The WiiU Pro Controller, on the other hand, has really held up nicely. This has gotten a lot of use. Super Mario 3D World, used this controller almost exclusively with that. And with Mario Kart 8, which I played a ton of in the spring, I was using this controller, and it felt just wonderfully accurate. And like I said, it is really, I think, the underdog of the three. So what would my revised verdict be? Well, I would have to say that the Xbox One controller takes a very, very slight lead for me, just because it is a better version of the Xbox 360 controller, which is great for a number of different genres, and I think now with the improved thumbstick, it is the perfected package. And again, I love kind of the soft touch triggers on this controller. The rumble is very impressive. I hate rumble. I never play with rumble on, but I tried it out, and it does definitely have a rumble feature that kind of just pervades the entire controller. I find it distracting, but it is a nice deal, and it's great, I think, for third-person PC games. I tried it out with some first-person shooters, Titanfall most notably, as I figured, let's give it a try in that arena, and I didn't play with it for long. I don't really like playing first-person shooters with controllers, but it really is, for me, the ideal PC controller, and it's worked with just about every modern game I've tried it with. I tried it with Burnout Paradise, and that game didn't recognize it. Everything else has been fine. So this is a really, really nice upgrade if you're a PC gamer, and I would assume that it functions just as well on the Xbox One, but I'll withhold that opinion because I don't have an Xbox One. Nonetheless, I think the overall point here is that controllers have gotten really, really good in this generation. I mean, this huge improvement over the PlayStation 3 controller, and even over the great PlayStation 2 controller, which I really liked. Best Wii U control option out there, much better than their original classic controller, and you have this very solid upgrade for the PC and the Xbox One. So I thank you as always for watching Game Escape, and I'll be back shortly with another video.